Aloha and welcome to Na Koa Exchange. My name is Jeff Hickman and I'm the Director of Public Affairs for the State of Hawaii Department of Defense. And on today's podcast, I have a very special guest. Major General Harris, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
We start almost all of our podcasts with asking people, what is their Guard story? So can you tell us your Guard story?
Sure. Yes. I really wanted to go to college after high school. My parents really encouraged me in that direction, although frankly, I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. And so I was sort of faking it to get there. But I enjoyed it the first year. But the byproduct of that is practically being broke and then in great debt from 1 year of school. So that summer I ran into somebody who had just joined the Air National Guard in Portland, Oregon. And he was telling us about it. He told us about his enlistment experience. And me and a buddy were both listening and we're like, man, we could do the buddy enlistment thing. And so we signed up to do it. And that, so my initial motivation was, just get into something that had some purpose, had some structure, gave me a financial way forward for school, because there were some great benefits for school back then. So I enlisted in June 28th of 1985. And I think he re-enlisted me in October so I could take advantage of some additional school benefits. I ended up going to basic that fall, tech school, coming out in 26 in the winter. In 86 in the winter. And coming back to Portland, I didn't immediately go right back to school. I thought, it's rather than do half a year, let me see what I can get for employment. And lo and behold, the guard said, hey, we could really use you in the warehouse because we don't have anybody. So I was very unfamiliar with the whole concept of guard bumming, but man, that's what I did.
So
I got
you got a full-time job.
Well, I got a temp. Yeah. So I went on temporary immediately after tech school to work in the warehouse. Got to know the full-time force, got to know the differences between the different duty statuses. That was my indoctrination. And what a treasure the Guard really is and how flexible it is for your different periods in life. So that was a really great initial education into what I had gotten myself into. So I did go back to school that next fall while maintaining my Guard drills and work. But I worked essentially every time I wasn't in school. I had a temp working at the Guard because they liked my work and I sure liked working there. It was a lot better than some of the other jobs that I had done, and it was adding to my my skill set that I knew I was enlisted to perform. So I was enlisted there in supply in Portland, Oregon for 1985 through about 1990. And I would say, I'm trying to think when I went full time, because I kind of stopped. I went 1 year of school and then went full time in 87, started doing the technician program, basically saying to myself, I got to take a break on school. I need to be able to pay my bills and survive. So got my own apartment and, maintaining, kind of single in my 20s, but had a full-time technician job in Portland, Oregon. And then they were standing up a base down in Klamath Falls, Oregon, and they were offering a lot of AGR jobs. And so I learned about the AGR program because a lot of our guys were bailing to go down there, convert to AGR, and help that unit stand up in Kingsley Field.
A lot of associations where you were and just hearing about opportunities. That's how you advanced all the way to getting an AGR. You heard from your friend to get in. You heard about the temp program. You heard about tech. So the Guard kind of led you along, but you kept getting new information. Yeah,
that's exactly it. And I think that'd be my advice and I've given that advice to a lot of young people. When you don't know what you want to do and you're trying to figure out what life has to offer and what you might gravitate towards, you got to just jump in and try something and see what it exposes you to. And then go from there, right? You don't know what you don't know. So you got to continue to take in information, and that's what ended up serving me well. And the Guard was great for that. It was really great for that. Exposed me to so much I had no idea existed, like the AGR program. And there's plenty of active duty people who have been in the Air Force most of their career, and they still don't know what the AGR program is, frankly. So anyway, to make a long story longer, I went down to Klamath Falls, took the AGR with the intention to always go back to school because I had exhausted most of my benefits as a drill status guardsman, but I didn't finish school. So I still had this idea that I wanted to finish school, but I was enjoying my Guard membership. I was learning great skills, working with great people, and I really, was starting to appreciate what it meant to be a military member. And then as you get more senior, you're teaching other junior members, and you're getting to mentor others. So that was very satisfying, and it felt in line with what I wanted to do with my life. So down at Klamath Falls, I stayed AGR. I ended up getting married, having kids, starting a family, and still hadn't gone back to school, but worked my way up through the ranks. I think I stopped at E7 as an AGR. I was working in finance at the time, and a mentor back then reached out and said, "Hey, what would you like to consider? A commission. I've heard you're trying to finish your school." And I said, "Yeah, I would. I absolutely. That's been a goal." So I had a plan to get back to school, but it took about 10 years from when I first went full time to finally get back to school. And so I did. Finished my degree at a Northwest Christian College at the time in Eugene, which is a commute from Klamath Falls. So that was really arduous, especially in the winter, across a mountain pass. But my wife, God bless her, she drove me during the week, a couple times a week, the 80 miles one way to this evening course that I would go to a couple times a week. And we made it through. It took a couple years, finished my degree. Back then, you could get your commission in advance of getting your degree if you had a roadmap to getting it. So I did that, but then shortly after that, I finished my degree. And my first jobs were, they had me in a personnel trainee AFSC, but I was also in a maintenance officer trainee AFSC. They also put me full-time. I took a environmental manager job. So I was working as the full-time environmental manager as a lieutenant at Klamath Falls, Kingsley Field. And drill status-wise, militarily, they had me assigned to the maintenance group. So I did that probably had that pattern about 4 years, and then got an opportunity to go full-time in the maintenance group. So I enjoyed environmental. It was great. It taught me the whole base and all the industrial functions. Contacts everywhere in the local community, too. I was really ingrained in the community in Klamath Falls. And so it taught me a ton. Plus, I was briefing the wing commander regularly and responsible for keeping him out of trouble with the regulatory agencies like the DEQ and OSHA. So the commander knew who you were as a lieutenant. Yep, I had good visibility. Yep. And then when I went full-time for maintenance, they put me right into the MOF commander position. That's what I had kind of been doing as a part-timer, and I took it over full-time, which is the maintenance operations flight. It's basically the group staff. So I was in charge of the group staff for the maintenance group. I had a chief and a hierarchy of enlisted folks doing 6 separate functions for the staff. And that was great education into aircraft maintenance. And I'd already had some of my enlisted background in the engine shop and in production control. So it was right up my alley because I'd actually worked in the MOF as an enlisted guy for years. So it was good to be the leader of the function that I'd worked within. It gave me credibility with everybody. You had your base set. Had my base set, yeah. And that started my career in aircraft maintenance, which was the bulk of my officer career, and took me up to eventually moving up to Portland, Oregon, back to Oregon, Portland, and taking a squadron commander position in the aircraft maintenance squadron. Did that for 5 or 6 years, then took the maintenance squadron. Did that for another year or two. Then took the deputy maintenance group commander position. And I'm skipping over a lot of other kind of events because it was all the same career field. And I was just getting better and more senior in it. Mm-hmm. And then now at this point, I'm pretty deep into the AGR program. I've got, because of my 7 years in the AGR program as an enlisted, 13 total years enlisted, plus the 12, 13 years I've got as an officer at this point. I'm hitting my 20-year point in the AGR program. And I haven't reached all my goals. I'm a deputy maintenance group commander. I've essentially been grooming myself to be the maintenance group commander and that's what all my superiors had been training me towards for quite some time. But General Reese at the time thought it was great for the Army Guard and the Air Guard in Oregon to have a very young force, and he wanted to sort of keep that force young. And so he put a policy in there that said after 20, it's just year by year, and unless you got a plan, we're probably going to be shedding you if you have this many years of AGR time. Well, I was only 13 years commissioned, and so that really didn't make a lot of sense in my situation. So I started looking at other states. During that time when I was looking, I got this call from then Colonel Juice Pirak, who had just taken the ops group in the 154th Wing here in Hawaii. And he said, we're in trouble in maintenance over here, and you're a classically trained maintenance officer. And he said, we could really use your skills. And I go, well, that happens to align with what I need. I need to get out of Oregon because they're terminating me AGR, or they will, because of all my time. So that's how I ended up in Hawaii and working in the maintenance group.
And it's who you know again.
Again, it's who you know. Yeah. And so then right after I got here, he left and went on to bigger and better things, as he's been doing his entire career. But I learned and grew to love the Hawaiʻi Air National Guard, its people, its leadership. They gave me more credibility than I deserved and allowed me to be effective in that maintenance group commander role.
Who were some of the leaders above you at that time?
It was General Sakai. Knockers Nakamura was the vice commander at the time when I came on board, but he retired shortly after that. And then there was a series of vice commanders that went through there. Kurt Shigeta and Tyson Tanaka, just to name a few. And then Shige, he came through there too. We got him off active duty, and then Dan Carlson ended up taking the wing, and so anyway, a lot of folks rotated through the vice position, but it was really General Sakai and a Juice that kind of got me started in Hawaii, and I give all the credit and blame them for any of the things I've done wrong. So there we go. So after that, I think what happened was I worked full-time with Al Fritz quite a bit, and I think I gained some credibility with him somehow, and he must have spoken about me to General Okahara, who didn't really know who I was and wasn't necessarily a fan of, I shouldn't say that. I think it's always preferred to hire from within, because you get what you know what you're getting.
You groomed, yes.
So it took me a while to be a known quantity in Hawaii, as it should. And I think once that happened, then he wanted to mentor me and groom me to eventually take over the high hang. I think he had some other candidates in mind as well. I wasn't necessarily his first choice, but it all worked out that way. And I was able to fill that gap. He held the position for 6 years plus. I ended up, when I took over, it ended up going for, I told myself I'd never stay that long, and I ended up being there right about 6 years. So maybe that's the correct frequency. Anyway, that's my guard story in a nutshell. And sorry to make that so long-winded.
No. In fact, from that, there's a couple of questions I have. And one I usually ask at the end of the podcast is, what advice do you have for incoming airmen, officer, enlisted, brand new? And your track and the jobs you did, it's not traditional. And so the timing, you made it your own. So can you talk about that, how the opportunities for somebody coming in, it's not go to college, become an officer, You took your time finishing college, and you took your time getting to E7 before you took next steps. So How flexible is the Guard, and what advice would you give to other people saying, hey, you don't have to follow a traditional path?
Yeah, that's a great question, and one, that I think my path does enlighten, and because there's certainly points in my path where I said to myself, this is never going to work. This is not how people do it. But then there were moments after your success builds on success. So if you can just trust yourself and trust those that know you better than you know yourself, and open yourselves to their input, their advice. Listen, believe others about yourself more than sometimes you believe yourself. It's easy to doubt yourself, but it's just part of human nature that it's difficult to understand all of who we are and what we're capable of, but much easier for somebody else outside us who gets to know us to be able to give us that assessment and be more accurate. So that would be my advice. A couple other things. If you given the choice at the fork in the road for two different paths, take the one that's probably that you're reluctant to take, that's difficult. Take the one that looks like it'll teach you more, even though it's much harder sometimes. That way, in the long run, you'll greatly benefit. I watched a lot of my peers go for the money or go for the assignment that looked like, okay, I won't get in trouble in that assignment. But I'm telling you, if you looking back on the path I took, and then 10 years go by and I'm with my same peer group at the table, and I realize sitting around the table, I have weight here that they don't have because I took the more difficult path. And that's also what is so great about the Guard. Guard, because you're growing up in the same family for your whole career, you get to know your peers, your superiors, your subordinates in a way that active duty just doesn't get to enjoy. And that's mostly good. There are some negatives to that familiarity. But I would say, use those relationships, those deeper relationships that you're afforded in the Guard, to learn as much as you can about others and yourself. And like I said, go for the path that's going to teach you the most.
That's great advice. One other point that I noticed in your story is you didn't do it alone. You had mentors along the way. You joined with friends and peers, but you also had support of your wife driving you those 80 miles in Oregon in the winter. Can you talk about the support that you've had along the way and how you don't need to do it alone? You can, and many people have, but you had really good support getting you here.
Yeah, I would say, when you're single and you're just taking care of yourself, you set a bar for that and for your comfortable existence, that isn't as ambitious when all of a sudden you're thrust into responsibility for others, particularly your spouse, or if you have children, all of a sudden you're ahead of a household and you have to think differently about your decisions for your career and your entire life. And having a spouse that essentially refused to listen to me doubt myself and always said, you can do anything you want. And I always support you doing it. Just decide what it is you want to do and let's go do it. And, so having that was instrumental to being where I am today. And then just that, like I said, that dynamic of raising a family, so key to foundational leadership. When you're taking responsibility for others in a family, it's a little deeper and different than obviously in a work environment, but the dynamics are similar. You've got to start using your heart, your emotional intelligence, your mind, your intellect, to think about, that responsibility and embrace it, take hold of it, and don't shy away from it. Yeah, I would say family more than anything really helped put me in a position to want to lead and test my ability to lead, get comfortable with it, and then also realize that, hey, this is what I think I'm meant to do. I need to get as good at it as I can and take assignments that force me to get better and better at it.
Speaking on some of those assignments over your career, it can be enlisted or when you were an officer. What are some key assignments or leadership positions you had that really stood out to you?
Well, the one that probably stressed me the most, and where I probably learned the most was probably that initial squadron command for 6 years, being the aircraft maintenance squadron commander. Now, and I'll go back to enlisted too here in a second, because I want to talk about that. But as an officer and as a leader and a commander, that initial squadron command, we did 9 graded IG inspections in a 5-year period. These are phase 1s, phase 2s, UCIs, and then 5 AFEs, which are Air Force Alert Inspections, Readiness Inspections by ACCIG. So we undertook 9 of those total in a very short period of time, and coming off the back of an ORI failure. So that I took over after an ORI failure. As part of the reason I got the job, I think, because my predecessor got asked to step aside. So, and then at one point too, into one of those, I remember a key moment when my boss came to me and he goes, "We've got all these aircraft we just got off active duty. They're in terrible shape. We've got to have a phase 1 in 6 months. If we can't get these jets into a modicum of readiness, you and I are both going to be out of a job." And he was very straightforward with me. I got it, boss. I get it. And let's attack it together. And we did. And we barely squeaked through it. But that was having that transparency with the boss, understanding where you stand, where I stood at the time. I appreciated that, even though that's not, it was also hard to hear, but it was probably true. And I appreciated knowing, exactly that truth.
Sounds like you also had faith in your subordinates and your NCOs, the wrench turners, who could make it happen. You said, "Oh, yep, got it," but you knew they could do the job.
Yeah, I learned tremendous faith in those guys, and because they continued to blow me away whenever I doubt them, they blow my expectations out of the water. I talked to them before any of those events and explained my doubts, and explained hey, how serious they needed to take it. And I always felt like they kind of looked at me and go, "If you really knew us, you wouldn't really be talking to us like that." And I got that vibe off them sometimes, and sometimes that would make me angry, and I'd go, "Why are they giving me that? Why don't they take this seriously?" And then I'd see the way they do in the next exercise, and I go, "Where the hell was that group 6 months ago?" And that's when I learned there's a lot on the table. That comes in the Guard. We don't necessarily follow all the same patterns of getting ready like active duty does, because we're an older force, we're more experienced, and when we need to turn it on, it'll water your eyes what we're capable of. But getting everybody motivated and on the same page to do it, that's the challenge in the Guard. And but never doubt the capability. When they want to succeed, they absolutely will.
And then you wanted to share also a position when you were enlisted?
Yeah, there were a couple moments when I was enlisted that really made a difference. There was when I first got a plans and scheduling job at Kingsley Field. I was a staff sergeant, and I was cross training into production control. And she told me, Master Sergeant Joy Connolly, "Hey, I'm sending you to another tech school. I know you're already a 7 level in supply, but I'm sending you to become a maintenance production controller, and I need you to do well in school. In fact, if you get honor graduate, I will give you a 3-day pass when you get back." Well, I'd just gotten married. I was not relishing the idea of being away from my new spouse for that entire school period. And I thought to myself, okay, I will try. I'll do my best. And I'd say that was the first time in my life where I really studied. I mean, like really studied hard. When I got to the room, I gave my TV set to my roommate, the guy I was sharing a bathroom with, and told all those guys, "I'm not going out with you at all." And I just stayed in my room. They rescued me a few times. Go, "You can't do this. You can't survive like this." So, but anyway, yeah, I would say that's the first time I really buckled down, and I think I missed 2 the whole time I was there. And I did get the honor grad, and I got the 3-day pass when I got home. And the reason I say that's so important and formational is it? I feel myself getting a little emotional. It taught me something about myself I didn't know up until that point. I had always assumed that my ability to do well academically was not that great, and but it taught me that no, when you work hard, you really can do well. So it's not necessarily a capability thing; it's really a motivation and a tactics, technique, and procedure problem. But that was tremendous. And that's what motivated me eventually to go back to school full time and get that done.
Was that success? Getting
that success? Right? Yeah, it was. And it was more just proving it to myself. It wasn't the actual 3-day pass. It was the fact that I doubted I could do it and did it anyway. And
sounded like that leader had faith in you when you didn't. And then I bet he or she has no idea that little carrot he put out there had such a significant impact.
I probably not. She retired maybe 5 years later, and I've told that story, for the last 20 years. And I don't know if it ever got back to her, but
what was her name?
Joy Connolly, Master Sergeant Joy Connolly. She was old SR-71 crew chief that had cross-trained up into production control. And she had worked with some of our other officers who were crew chiefs enlisted as well. So, yeah, she was a great NCO. I had another great NCO who was really good at giving feedback. So when I was doing skill level upgrade training, standard enlisted stuff. You're going through your training records, and I would go through my VREs, and he would look at over all my scores and go, go explain to me how you missed this question. And he was just super engaged. I never found a supervisor like that took training and mentoring so seriously, but it taught me a standard for that I never forgot. And it always became part of what I thought the vision for that should be in the Air Force. And his name was Dennis Wheat. He became a chief.
So it sounds like you had some great mentors along the way.
I did, absolutely.
A big impact. Yeah, it's you never know if they know that they're the ones who helped shape you. I wanted to take it to the wing now. And you've relinquished command a couple months ago. What were some of the biggest challenges you faced on readiness? Because with the world we have today, the 154th Wing is very important in the Pacific. The eyes are on the Pacific. So as far as readiness, what are some stories or challenges that you had to make sure that the 154th and the Hawaiʻi Air National Guard was ready?
Yeah, it didn't take me long after taking command, and I knew this from working under General Okahara as well, to realize, and it stayed true my entire time as the commander, that our biggest readiness impediment was recruiting and retention. And we did everything we could with the resources we have just to keep our recruiting and retention as high as it was during a period of time when the rest of the United States and the propensity to serve was falling rapidly. We stayed at the percentage we were at, but that didn't look necessarily like success because we weren't advancing. Mm-hmm. We've hovered between 91 and 93%, pretty much the last 6-7 years. The only thing that really moves the needle sometimes is we'll get a reduction on one of our units, and that drives the percentage up, or we'll get a new mission and the percentage will go down. But we've really struggled to move it past that. And if you look at all our readiness metrics, you can tell that vacancies are the leading detractor from combat readiness in all of our AFSCs overall as a wing and as the high A.
So what did you do to try to move the needle? I'm coming from the Guard.
Everything.
91 was a great percentage. We were aiming for 91. You're at 91 and trying to get to 95. So what did you guys do? What did your recruiting team do?
Yeah, we're trying to get to 102. So that's always your goal, is you've got to shoot for over 100 to get to 100 because of the lagging effect of losing folks and gaining folks. We did everything we could. We tried to really increase our marketing budget. On the manpower front, we only had 7 production recruiters, and we struggled with the Guard Bureau mightily to try to improve that. we made some ground. We did get some authorization to bring in additional temp hires, which we did. So we threw manpower at it as we could. But we're competing in an environment with all the services, all the components, and even just here on the island with our Army Guard brothers and sisters, we're outgunned like 10 to 1 in terms of production recruiters. And we're outgunned on marketing budget 20 to 1. So they can get their name out there all over the place, and we really struggle to compete with that volume of information. Now, I would say we did a ton with what we had. We had very limited, marketing budget, but we used a lot of social media. We used a lot of free things. We did what we could with what we had, and that helped immensely. Family and friends, that's the key, right? I mean, all of our lasting and best recruits are coming from those who know current members or know of current members.
That's what got you in.
Yes, absolutely.
It's who you know.
That absolutely. Yeah. So we did a lot, and I do count it a success that we didn't go down when the rest of the country did. We have although it's a very competitive recruiting environment, the propensity to serve in Hawaii is higher than the national average. And the warrior ethos here is alive and strong, and we're much better for it. So, and proud to be a part of it. So,
oh, you do. You have some very talented warriors in the Hawaiʻi Air National Guard.
Absolutely, thank you.
We have two missions in the National Guard: the federal and the state. Can you talk about while you were commander, some of the state, disasters or responses that the Air Guard went through, and what your role and what you felt about it?
Yeah, it was, because of the federal mission responsibilities we have on the Air Guard side, and the weight of those, as compared to our Army National Guard brothers and sisters, they end up having to take more of a lead role in some of the domestic response task forces, lava flow, COVID, There were the Lahaina wildfires. We had, I could go through any of those task forces, but if you look at the makeup of any of them, it's predominantly Army, and then we would take whatever we could contribute that would not detract from readiness on the federal side.
Yeah, can you explain that? Because everybody always says, oh no, the Air Guard doesn't have a lot of participants, but you guys have the full-time real world mission going on. And
absolutely.
So what are some of the full-time missions that took time and people away where you couldn't get those high numbers? Yeah,
the easiest one for everybody to relate to and see every day is the alert mission. It's our air defense mission for the Central Pacific airspace region, and we're responsible for the security of that airspace 24/7, and that requires manpower and resources to be dedicated to that mission 24/7 that cannot be diverted to state task forces or some other job. That's just one. But we also have 3 flying platforms that are all in super high demand across the Air Force. There just aren't enough of any of those platforms. And that means that the people and men and women that we have that maintain the readiness of those platforms for the use, by the United States and any of our federal responses that are required, any of our O plans that are out there where those assets are absolutely required to facilitate that O plan. We cannot necessarily take them off the step to be ready to do that. That would detract from national security. So we have to maintain those commitments, and that ties our hands a little bit on domestic response. But that said, there are often periods where somebody's off a deployment cycle, or a unit is going through a conversion, or there's things going on where they don't necessarily have to be as ready. And those are the people available to contribute and be a part of those state task forces when they're needed. And so we do that careful balancing act as we can. And I am super fortunate that I worked for great tags that understood the Air Guard really, really well. I never felt like I had to go to the tag and say, sir, you cannot task me that heavily. I cannot give that because of this federal mission. It was actually quite the opposite.
They understood ahead of time.
They understood ahead of time, and they said, what do you think? What do you think? We're thinking maybe this much participation. I'm thinking, I think we can do a little more actually than what you're saying. You're trying to protect us maybe a little too much, perhaps. So all that to say, I worked for TAGs, both of them aviators. They understood the Air Force mission deeply, and knew exactly how to balance the force correctly in terms of how much air assets should stay with federal and how much should we use for state. They were really good and made it easy for me.
So you're saying aviator generals were probably the best?
No, I'm not saying that at all. No.
Shout out to General Howard and General Logan.
No. They were really great. I would say anybody who understands, who takes the time to understand sister services and they have a good joint mentality and they embrace their responsibilities over both components, like both those two gentlemen did. They're incredible leaders in that role.
Being part of the TAG staff, I see it also permeated down to the joint staff level where they now understand. So it's not just the highest. They're making sure that the joint staff understands, and that's where the taskings come from immediately. I think them understanding it helps the entire process. So a nice top-down knowledge base there.
Well, and that also happens when we have a nice blend of blue and green in the joint staff, which we made a lot of progress on in the last 5 years. And I think that also helps because then you've got the receptors for the good information from both angles that can then make the whole group understand the joint implications.
Yeah, I've seen a lot more blue suiters up there and getting the experience and then taking it out during drill status or if they go AGR tech, but they have some of the joint knowledge. They learned a little bit of the green side as well.
Yes, sir.
Leadership style. You were a senior NCO. You were a leader in every position you were as an officer. If you had to describe your leadership style, what would you say it was?
Well, I've heard people describe me. I try to be as transparent as I can. I try to be the leader that I would want to follow and that I think all our men and women deserve to follow into combat or into harm's way, however you want to say that. And that to me means your people will always deserve more than you can provide because we're human. I'm just a human being, and my people, all of our servicemen, our airmen, and our soldiers, for what we ask them to do, and the fact that they volunteer to do it, they're an elite. They're the kings and queens of the human race, in my opinion, and we who are put in charge to lead them, we have to take that really seriously and realize that we're going to be perpetually failing to give them everything that they require and they deserve. So we have to do our best and then be okay with what's left at the end, knowing that there's probably always something more that can be done, but you've got to, we're all human. You surround yourself with good people. They'll help you point out your flaws, help you work around your flaws, and they'll pick up the slack where you can't deliver something. And that's one of the keys. And that's why I think transparency is one of the key things in good leadership. And people have to know what you expect of them. You've got to be transparent on not just what's expected, but what's not expected, and when expectations aren't met. So you can't shy away from conflict. People deserve to know, and it's not always pleasant to let them know.
Good and bad, yes, sir.
Yeah, it's not always pleasant. So, yeah, I guess that'd be my biggest takeaway would be, try to be the leader that you would want to follow, and I think my enlisted time really shaped that deeply, watching those senior NCOs, watching how they led with integrity, cleaned up their own messes with their own people. If they did overstep, they would come back and try to go, hey, I'm human. I messed up in the heat of battle. I maybe yelled where I shouldn't have yelled, and I'm sorry. I won't do it again, and I'll work hard on that. And that engendered that honesty, that transparency. It engendered credibility and trust in that person's integrity and their character. and made them somebody I wanted to follow, and that's the leader I wanted to be as well. Is be that leader you want to follow, be that leader you deserve to follow into harm's way.
It's nice to hear you say some of those things, the transparency being such a big one. Having a role in government, we work for the people. When I was applying for jobs, I asked my uncle, who was on a whole bunch of boards, uncle, any advice? And he said, be transparent. Be transparent with those below you and above. If you're messing up, you let them know. They're messing up, you let them know. Goals, what are your expectations? So hearing that from other people as well, and I think I've heard that from other leaders. Transparency and trust are some of the biggest tactics and objectives that you try to achieve when you're a leader. Switching gears a little bit, your civilian job. Mm-hmm. So for those who don't know, what do you do on the civilian side, and what are you going to continue to do, once you retire from military service?
Yeah, thank you for asking. So I'm the F-22 site manager at Joint Base Pearl Harbor Hickam for Lockheed Martin. And what that involves is just the contractor support responsibilities that come along with the Raptor platform, Raptor being the F-22. And, I'm very proud to do that work. It's similar work to my maintenance background, but with a civilian kind of defense contractor flavor. So it's different, and you have to understand, I've had to learn a lot about business and just the concerns and making sure we respect contractual lines and be good stewards of government resources and doing the jobs that we do. So I'm proud to do that work. I really enjoy it. And Lockheed Martin's a great employer. And
they give you a lot of support being your civilian employer.
They gave me, I couldn't have asked for a better employer to deal with the dual role that I had being in the National Guard and then also being their employee full time. They're tremendous. They offer military leave with pay differential, so a tremendous benefit for National Guardsmen. So if you make less while you're in military status, they'll pay the difference. So that really encourages people of all ranks with Lockheed to take a role maybe that pays less, because I know if I get activated on active duty, they're gonna take care of me. So yeah, I think they're doing all they can to encourage membership in the reserve component.
Good. And what are your plans? Any travel plans? Any family plans?
Yeah,
while you're retired.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So that's one thing that one downside to that dual role I was maintaining was it really ate up most of my free time. And so I'm looking forward to having a little of that free time back, regular weekends, regular evenings, things like that. So I'm already, I tell my friends I'm in recovery. And so I'm still kind of mentally embracing that recovery and what it means. And part of what it means is more time. And I want to use some of that time and use some of that leave vacation time I now have from my Lockheed job that was all going to military duty, and actually take some good vacations, take some trips, do some inter-island jumping around with my wife, and go to the mainland and visit my kids there a little more, my grandkids. So yeah, that's my intention.
Okay. We just had a caller with a question. Ask, why do you drive such a big truck? And that was from a caller.
This must not be part of the podcast.
It's not an official question.
It's an interesting story. I had to give away my truck to my daughter. I didn't have to, but I chose to. My 2005 Sierra, and then I was going to replace it. I said, well, I'll just buy another one of the same truck I had. And essentially I did, dimension-wise, but when I looked at kind of the differences that I could get, then I just went with that. That was my choice.
It's a big truck. You can tell when the general attends one of the ceremonies. It takes up the entire space. I just wanted to mention that. We're getting close to the end of the podcast. I wanted to ask you, do you have any thoughts or inspiration or stories that inspired you about the Hawaiʻi Air National Guard? You're leaving an incredible organization and the mission that they have, and you led them for a time, almost 6 years, right?
Yeah.
What message do you have for the Air National Guardsmen today?
Partly I said it already, but I'll say it again, and that is that if you choose to be a member of the military at all, you're up there in my book. But if you choose to be a member of the Hawaiʻi Air National Guard, you're joining an elite group that's got a history of that federal mission readiness that I described earlier, but still being super motivated, super ready to fill in for our state in any times of need. You live right in our communities and you serve our communities. And the other thing I'll say is you're signing on for extensive partnerships, deeply, with roots all through our community, roots all through the Indo-Pacific, with our state partnerships, with the active duty TFI, with, civilian organizations with the state. And it's a tremendous network of partnerships that you are becoming a part of, and more so than if you choose another component to serve in. So that's what I would say. You probably don't realize every day coming to drill or coming to work full time for your job, but you are a part of a network of partnerships that is key and vital to the security of this region. It's key and vital to the island chain and its health and vitality and its security. So don't ever forget that you're part of that, and take pride in your membership in that.
Thank you. Thank you, sir, for joining us today, sharing your history, your love, your inspiration, your story with us here today. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
And thank you for joining us on this version of the Na Koa Exchange. I'm Jeff Hickman, and this is Major General Harris. Mahalo.
Mahalo.